Welcome back to the channel Coins Collector everyone, and get ready for an incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, unexpected treasures, and unbelievable values hidden right in plain sight. Imagine holding something in your hand that looks like an ordinary coin, something you might have passed over thousands of times in change without a second thought, only to discover it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Today, we're diving deep into the story of one particular coin, the 1966 Liberty 1 dime, a humble 10-cent piece from the United States that, because of rare errors, mint mark oddities, and unique production quirks, has become one of the most sought-after and potentially valuable coins in American numismatic history. We're not just talking about a dime that's worth a couple of dollars to collectors, we're talking about a small, seemingly insignificant coin that, under the right circumstances, can command a value of up to $448,000. Yes, you heard that right. A dime, worth 10 cents on its face, could be worth more than some houses, cars, and luxury vacations combined. The story of the 1966 Liberty dime starts in an unusual time for U.S. coinage. The mid-1960s were a turbulent period in American minting history. Silver prices had been rising, and the U.S. Mint was facing a coin shortage caused by massive hoarding of coins containing precious metals. To address this crisis, the government made major changes to the composition of circulating coins. In 1965, the Mint removed silver from dimes and quarters, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. That means that, unlike earlier dimes which were made of 90% silver, the dimes struck from 1965 onward were a sandwich of copper core between layers of nickel. This change not only altered the metal value of the coins but also introduced new challenges in the minting process, challenges that would, in some cases, produce the types of mistakes and anomalies that collectors today find so exciting. Now, here's something crucial about 1966 in particular. During 1965, 1966, and 1967, the U.S. Mint decided to omit mint marks entirely from coins as a strategy to discourage hoarding. In previous years, mint marks indicated the facility where a coin was made, such as D for Denver or S for San Francisco, but during this period, no such marks were supposed to appear. The Mint also didn't produce any special proof sets for collectors, choosing instead to issue special mint sets with a somewhat different finish. So the 1966 dime, on paper, should be a very straightforward coin, copper-nickel clad, no silver, no mint mark, mass-produced by the hundreds of millions, and worth exactly 10 cents in everyday transactions. And yet, here we are talking about examples worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, what happened? The answer lies in the fascinating world of mint errors. When coins are mass-produced at the scale the U.S. Mint operates, even with the most advanced machinery, mistakes happen. And in certain rare cases, those mistakes slip past quality control and enter circulation. For most coins, a minor error might make them worth a few dollars to a collector, maybe a few hundred if the error is dramatic. But the 1966 Liberty dime has shown that in some extraordinary cases, the right kind of error, in combination with the right condition and rarity, can elevate the value into the hundreds of thousands. One of the most intriguing error types found on 1966 dimes is related to transitional issues. Because 1964 was the last official year for silver dimes, there was a chance, however small, that leftover silver planchets could have been accidentally used in later years. If a silver planchet from 1964 somehow made its way into the presses in 1966, the resulting coin would look almost identical to a regular clad dime to the untrained eye, but its weight and composition would be different. Collectors use precision scales to detect this. A silver dime should weigh about 2.5 grams, while the clad version weighs slightly less. If authenticated, such an error can fetch astronomical sums, especially if the coin remains in pristine, uncirculated condition. Another class of valuable errors is the double die. A double die error happens when the coin's design is impressed more than once on the die used to strike it, but slightly misaligned. This can cause the letters, numbers, or design elements to appear doubled. On a 1966 dime, a dramatic double die on the date, the word Liberty, or In God We Trust, can be especially desirable. Since the 1966 dime doesn't have a mint mark, any doubled features immediately stand out to a trained eye, and some of the most spectacular examples can command breathtaking prices at auction. Then we have off-center strikes, another collector favorite. This error occurs when the coin blank, or planchet, is not properly centered in the press during striking. Instead of the design being neatly aligned, part of it is missing, and a blank crescent of metal is visible along one edge. The value of such an error depends on how off-center the strike is and whether the date is still visible. For a 1966 dime, a major off-center strike with a visible date could be worth hundreds or even thousands of times its face value. Clipped planchets are yet another error type seen in 1966 dimes. This happens when the metal sheet from which planchets are punched overlaps slightly with an already punched hole, creating a coin with a curved or straight bite missing from its edge. While common clipped planchets might not fetch life-changing amounts, extreme or multiple clips combined with other errors can multiply the coin's desirability and value. Now, you might be wondering, how can any of these errors push a dime's value to nearly $500,000? That's where rarity, condition, and collector demand intersect. Not all mint errors are equal, many are common, and their novelty wears off for seasoned collectors. But certain error coins, particularly those with dramatic and unique features, become almost legendary within numismatic circles. If a 1966 dime has a combination of a rare transitional composition error, a double die, and perhaps an off-center strike, and it survives in gem-uncirculated condition with full original luster, you have a once-in-a-lifetime coin. The kind of coin that doesn't just sell, it becomes the centerpiece of a high-end collection, sparking bidding wars among wealthy collectors who understand its significance. Part of what makes coins like the 1966 Liberty dime so fascinating is that their stories are often intertwined with history and human error. The mint in the mid-1960s was under intense pressure to produce vast quantities of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy and to counteract hoarding. In this high-pressure environment, the possibility for small lapses or unusual circumstances increased. A leftover silver planchet from 1964 or 1965 ending up in the 1966 presses might sound unlikely, but it's precisely these unlikely scenarios that create the rare treasures we talk about decades later. It's also worth noting that during these years, collectors were still adjusting to the new clad coinage, and the lack of mint marks frustrated many. This may have caused some people to overlook interesting varieties, allowing certain error coins to circulate undetected for years. Some of the most valuable 1966 dimes may have spent decades bouncing between pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks before anyone realized what they really were. When you hear about a single 1966 dime selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's almost always a perfect storm of factors: extreme rarity, high-grade preservation, dramatic error, and strong market demand. For example, imagine a 1966 dime struck on a 90% silver planchet, with a visible double die on the obverse, and a slight off-center alignment, all preserved in pristine condition as though it had just left the mint yesterday. That coin would be so unique that its value could skyrocket to staggering heights because there would quite literally be no other example exactly like it in existence. Even without such extreme combinations, there are still many reasons collectors might pay substantial amounts for 1966 dimes. Some look for subtle varieties in the special mint set versions from that year, which can have sharper strikes, mirror-like fields, and frosted design elements. If one of these SMS dimes exhibits an unusual die clash, where parts of the reverse design are faintly impressed on the obverse due to a striking mishap, it can become a standout piece. Others hunt for broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the collar that normally shapes its edge, resulting in a slightly larger, flat-edged dime. Again, rarity and condition dictate the price, but in every case, it's the combination of anomaly and preservation that excites the collecting world. Today, I'm taking you on an exciting journey into the story of a seemingly ordinary dime, a 2005 D. Roosevelt dime, that turned out to be worth a staggering $51,000. That's right, a coin with a face value of just 10 cents ended up commanding the kind of price that could buy you a luxury car, a year of college tuition, or even be the down payment on a house. And the reason behind this shocking value lies in the incredible world of coin errors, mint mark oddities, and the small, almost invisible mistakes that can transform pocket change into numismatic gold. Imagine this: you're at the grocery store, you get some change back, and you toss it into your car's cup holder or maybe into that jar at home where you keep loose coins. Weeks or even months later, you're sifting through them, and something about one dime catches your eye. It might be the way the light hits the surface, the unusual shape of one of the letters, or maybe the mint mark seems off. You think nothing of it, but if you knew what I'm about to tell you, you'd realize you could be holding a small fortune in the palm of your hand. The 2005 D. Roosevelt dime in question is no ordinary coin. It's a product of a rare minting mistake, an error so unusual that only a handful of these dimes have ever been confirmed, making it a dream find for collectors. To understand why this coin became so valuable, we need to go back to the basics of coin minting in the United States. In 2005, the Denver Mint, indicated by the letter D on the coin, produced hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes. These coins are part of the series first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose leadership during the Great Depression and World War II made him one of the most influential figures in American history. By 2005, the Roosevelt dime design was well established. Roosevelt's left-facing profile on the obverse, with the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, the date, and the mint mark, and on the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Now, with such a high-volume production process, the U.S. Mint uses highly automated presses and strict quality control, but mistakes can and do happen. Most errors are caught before coins leave the mint, but sometimes, a flaw slips through and makes its way into circulation. When that happens, and the error is unusual enough, collectors are willing to pay huge sums to acquire it. In the case of the 2005 D dime worth $51,000, the value is tied to a combination of factors. First and foremost, there's the nature of the error itself. Some of these dimes show a dramatic misstrike, where the coin was struck off-center, leaving parts of the design missing or distorted. Others have a die cap error, where a previously struck coin sticks to the die and imprints a ghost-like, warped image onto subsequent coins. Then there are examples with a double die obverse or reverse, where slight shifts during striking cause the lettering or design elements to appear doubled under magnification. And in a few cases, the mint mark itself, the small d indicating Denver, has been punched incorrectly, tilted, repunched over an earlier mark, or even missing entirely. Collectors love these quirks because they are like fingerprints, no two are exactly alike. In the world of numismatics, rarity drives value. A common coin with a common error might be worth a few dollars, but a rare error on a modern coin, especially one in pristine uncirculated condition, can fetch jaw-dropping prices at auction. For the 2005 D dime in question, the combination of a dramatic error and extremely limited surviving examples created the perfect storm for collector demand. Another element that adds to the allure is condition. Coin grading plays a massive role in determining value. A coin graded by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, at a high level, say, mint state 67 or higher, can be worth exponentially more than the same coin in worn condition. High-grade examples of the 2005 D error dime are exceptionally scarce because most error coins that enter circulation get banged up quickly. Finding one with crisp details, full luster, and minimal marks is like finding a needle in a haystack. That's part of the reason why one of these dimes sold for over $50,000 at auction. It was not only an extraordinary error but also in superb condition. Now, you might be wondering what specific errors are most associated with this 2005 D dime and how you might recognize them. Let's break it down. One of the most famous varieties involves what's known as an off-metal strike. This is when a dime is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another coin, such as a penny or a foreign coin. The resulting piece can be the wrong weight, the wrong color, and sometimes even slightly the wrong size. These mistakes occur when the wrong blank planchet gets fed into the press, and they are immediately noticeable to trained eyes, or even to the casual collector who notices something off. Another possibility for the 2005 D high-value dime is a broad strike error. This happens when the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place during striking is absent or malfunctions. Without the collar, the metal spreads out beyond the normal diameter, creating a coin with a stretched, flat rim and sometimes a slightly distorted design. Broad strikes are rare enough, but when combined with a mint mark anomaly or double design elements, their value can skyrocket. Some examples have been found with dramatic clash dies, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving faint impressions of the opposite side's design in the fields of the coin. On a Roosevelt dime, this might mean you could see ghostly hints of the torch and branches on the obverse behind Roosevelt's head, or parts of his profile faintly visible on the reverse. These kinds of errors are fascinating because they tell a story about exactly what went wrong during the minting process. Let's not forget about the double die varieties, which remain some of the most popular error types with collectors. A double die happens when the die itself, the engraved stamp used to strike coins, has been impressed twice with slight misalignment during creation. On a 2005 D dime, doubling might be visible in the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date, with letters appearing doubled, split, or thickened. Under magnification, this doubling is obvious and can make the coin a prime target for collectors seeking to add unique varieties to their holdings. Then there are mint mark anomalies. In 2005, mint marks were still being applied to dies as part of the manufacturing process, which means mistakes could occur. A repunched mint mark, RPM, might show a faint shadow of a previous D in a slightly different position. Sometimes the mint mark is rotated, tilted, or even completely missing due to a filled die. These errors are subtle but can be incredibly valuable when combined with other mistakes on the same coin. You might think that finding such a coin is a 1 in a million chance, and while that's partly true, the good news is that coins like these are still out there. People often don't know what they have, and dimes are one of those coins that pass through hands quickly without much scrutiny. That's why experienced collectors recommend checking your change, looking at rolls from banks, and learning the telltale signs of major errors. Even though the 2005 D worth $51,000 is a rare example, lesser error coins from the same year can still be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The story of this coin also highlights how the coin market works. It's not just about rarity, it's about demand. A rare coin nobody cares about might not fetch much money, but a rare coin with an interesting story, from a popular series, in a high grade, can set off bidding wars among collectors. The Roosevelt dime series, while not as historically hyped as the Lincoln cent or Morgan dollar, has a devoted following. Collectors often aim to complete sets by date and mint mark, and when an unusual error from a specific year surfaces, it can create intense competition. The $51,000 sale of a 2005 D dime sent ripples through the coin collecting community. It served as a reminder that modern coins, those minted within the last few decades, are not necessarily too common to be valuable. While it's true that most modern coins are mass-produced with fewer mistakes thanks to improved technology, the ones that do slip through are often more intriguing because they defy the expectation that newer coins are flawless.